Chapter 2 Barnabas. They then sat together rather quietly over beer in the tap room, at a small table with Kay in the middle and the assistants on the other side. Only one other table was occupied by peasants, as on the previous evening. "This is difficult," said Kay, comparing their faces as he had often done before. "How am I supposed to distinguish between the two of you? Only your names are different. Otherwise, you're as like as—" He hesitated, then went on involuntarily. "Otherwise, you're alike as snakes." They smiled. "People usually can distinguish quite easily between us," they said in self-defense. "I can believe that," said Kay, "for I witnessed it myself, but I can only see with my eyes and cannot distinguish between you with them. So I shall treat you as one person and call you both auteur. That's what one of you is called." "You, perhaps?" Kay asked one. "No," he said. "My name is Jeremias." "Fine. It doesn't matter," said Kay. "I shall call you both auteur. When I send auteur somewhere, both of you must go. When I give auteur a task, both of you must do it. The great disadvantage this has for me is that I cannot use you for separate tasks, but the advantage is that the two of you bear undivided responsibility for carrying out all my instructions. How you divide up the work is immaterial to me so long as you do not try to excuse yourself by blaming each other. I consider you one person." They thought this over and said, "That would be quite unpleasant for us." "Why, of course," said Kay. "It must indeed be unpleasant for you, but that's how it's going to be." For some time now Kay had been watching one of the peasants slinking about the table. At last the peasant came to a decision, approached an assistant, and was able to whisper something in his ear. "Excuse me," said Kay, banging his hand on the table and standing up. "These are my assistants. We are having a meeting. Nobody has the right to disturb us." Oh, sorry, the peasant said anxiously, walking backward toward his companions. "One thing above all else you must keep in mind," said Kay, sitting down again. "You're not to speak to anyone without my permission. I am a stranger here, and if you are my assistants, then you are strangers too. We three strangers must stick together. Give me your hands on that." All too eagerly they stretched out their hands. "Drop your paws," he said. "But my orders stand. I shall go to bed now, and suggest you do likewise. We have lost a full work day and have to start work very early tomorrow. You must get a hold of a sleigh for the journey to the castle and have it ready at the door at 6 o'clock. "Fine," said one, but the other broke in. "You say fine, you know it's impossible." "Be quiet," said Kay. "You're simply trying to show you're different." But now the first one too said, "He's right, that's impossible. No strangers are allowed into the castle without permission." "Where must one apply for permission?" "I don't know, at the steward's perhaps." "Then we shall apply there by telephone. Telephone the steward at once, both of you." They ran to the telephone, obtained the connection. How they jostled each other. Outwardly they were ridiculously obedient, and inquired whether Kay could go with them tomorrow to the castle. The no of the answer reached Kay at his table, but the answer was more explicit. It went, "Neither tomorrow nor any other time. I myself shall telephone," said Kay, getting up, while Kay and his assistants had attracted little attention up to now, aside from the incident with the peasant. His last remark attracted general attention. They all stood up with Kay, and though the landlord tried to push them back, they gathered round him in the tight half-circle at the telephone. The majority thought that Kay would get no answer. Kay was obliged to ask them to be quiet. He had no desire to hear their opinion. From the mouthpiece came a humming, the likes of which Kay had never heard on the telephone before. It was as though the humming of countless childlike voices. But it wasn't humming either. It was singing, and the singing of the most distant of the most utterly distant voices, as though a single high-pitched yet strong voice had emerged out of this humming in some quite impossible way, and now drummed against one's ears, as if demanding to penetrate more deeply into something other than one's wretched hearing. Kay listened without telephoning. With his left arm propped on the telephone stand, he listened thus. He had no idea how long, not until the landlord tugged at his coat, saying that a messenger had come for him. "Go," shouted Kay, beside himself perhaps into the telephone, for now someone answered. The following conversation came about. "Oswald, here? Who's there?" said a severe, arrogant voice with a slight speech defect, for which it seemed to Kay the speaker tried to compensate by sounding even more severe. Kay was hesitant to give his name. Against the telephone he was defenseless. The person could shout him down, lay down the mouthpiece, and Kay would have blocked a path that was perhaps not insignificant. Kay's hesitation made the man impatient. "Who's there?" he repeated, adding, "I should be greatly pleased if less use were made of the telephone there. Someone telephoned only a moment ago." Kay did not reply to this remark and announced with sudden resolve, "This is the assistant of the gentleman who came as surveyor." What assistant? What gentleman? What surveyor? Kay recalled yesterday's telephone conversation. "Ask Fritz," he said curtly. It worked to his astonishment, yet what amazed him even more than its working was the consistency of the official service there. The response was, "I know. The eternal land surveyor. Yes, yes. Go on. What assistant?" "Joseph," said Kay. Having the peasants mumbling behind his back was somewhat annoying. They evidently disapproved of his not giving his right name, but Kay had no time to deal with them, for the conversation required all of his attention. "Joseph?" came the reply. "The assistants are called—" A short pause. He was apparently asking somebody else for their names. "Artur and Jeremias. Those are the new assistants," said Kay. "No, those are the old ones." "Those are the new ones. I'm the old one who came today to join the surveyor." "No," the voice was shouting. "Who am I then?" Kay asked as calmly as before. After a pause, the same voice, which had the same speech defect, but sounded like a different, deeper, and more imposing voice, said, "You're the old assistant." Kay was still listening to the sound of the voice and almost missed the next question. "What do you want?" Most of all, he would have liked to put down the receiver. He was no longer expecting anything from this conversation. Only under pressure did he quickly add, "When can my master come to the castle?" "Never," came the answer. "Fine," said Kay, replacing the receiver. Behind, the peasants had already edged up extremely close to him. The assistants, who keep casting side glances at him, were busy keeping the peasants away. But this seemed no more than a comedy, and the peasants, satisfied with the outcome of the conversation, gradually yielded. Just then their group was divided in two by a man who came from behind in rapid stride, bowed before Kay, and handed him a letter. Kay held the letter in his hand and looked at the man who seemed more important to him just then. He greatly resembled the assistants, was as slender as they, just as lightly dressed, had the same quickness and agility, and yet he was quite different. If only Kay could have had him as an assistant. He reminded Kay somewhat of the woman with the infant whom he had seen at the master tanner's. He was dressed almost entirely in white. The material could scarcely be silk. It was winter clothing like all the rest, but it had the delicacy and formality of silk. His face was bright and open, with enormous eyes. His smile was uncommonly encouraging. He brushed his hand across his face as though trying to chase away the smile, but he didn't succeed. "Who are you?" "My name is Barnabas. I'm a messenger." As he spoke, his lips opened and closed in a masculine but gentle way. "How do you like it here?" said Kay, pointing to the peasants, who still hadn't lost interest in him, and who, with their bulging lips, open mouths, and almost tortured faces, their heads looked as if they had been beaten flat on top, and their features shaped in the pain of the beating, were staring at him, but then again not staring at him, since their eyes sometimes wandered off and rested a while on some indifferent object before returning to him. And then Kay pointed to the assistants, who were embracing each other cheek to cheek and smiling, whether in humility or mockery one could not tell. He pointed all this out as if introducing an entourage forced on him by special circumstances in the hope, this suggested familiarity, which was what mattered to Kay, that Barnabas had the sense to tell the difference between these people and Kay. Yet Barnabas completely ignored this, though in all innocence, as one could see, letting the question pass like a well-trained servant faced with a comment only seemingly addressed to him by his master, and in response to the question merely looked about, greeting his acquaintances with among the peasants with a wave and exchanging a few words with the assistants, all this freely and independently, without mingling with them. Rejected but not abashed, Kay turned to the letter in his hand and opened it. It read as follows. Dear Sir, as you know, you have been accepted into the Count's service. Your immediate superior is the village council chairman. He will furnish you with all further details concerning your work and terms of employment, and you in turn will be accountable to him. Nevertheless, I too shall keep you in mind. Barnabas, who brings you this letter, will occasionally call on you to ascertain your wishes and relay them to me. You will find that I am always ready, insofar as possible, to oblige you. Having satisfied workers is important to me. The signature wasn't legible, but printed beside it were the words, The Director of Bureau Number 10.